Normally at this point in the gathering, we go into the message. Usually we're in some sort of series. And next week, we're jumping back into our series, Stuff You Didn't Learn in Sunday School. But today, we're doing something a little bit different. In fact, we're back in the living room, which some of you see the living room and you get triggered because you're like, uh-oh, they're having a living room chat. This must be serious. But it's not. It's seriously exciting, which, like that, eh? That wasn't in rehearsal. Seriously exciting. But I'm here with my friends Johanna and Brian, and today we are celebrating the 20-year anniversary of Celebrate Recovery. And some of you are like, clearly, you know what it is and it's worth celebrating. Others of you, you're like, 20-year anniversary to what? Like, it's your first Sunday. And you're like, I just showed up to a birthday party and I don't even know the birthday boy. That's what it kind of feels like for you probably, right? You're like, what is this? So listen, whether you've been here 20 years, you know all about Celebrate Recovery, or you're totally new, you're going to love today because if you're new, you're where I was 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I came to this church, and within the first few months, I just started to notice something about the people here that was a little bit different, like good different, but different about the people in this community. And there was just this okay to not be okay vibe that I picked up from people. And like, I'd meet with someone and I'd just be talking in the atrium, not like in the privacy of my office, and they're just sharing their life struggles with me. And I'm like, this is different for church world. Like, what's going on here? And you both invited me to a Celebrate Recovery leader retreat for my wife and I to come and speak there, which was up in Muskoka. Tough life, right? But it was up in Muskoka, and I just remember I was there with about 15, 20 leaders. And these leaders had nothing in common, like socioeconomically different, gender difference, age differences, right? 20-somethings, 70-somethings. And yet this was the most beautiful and authentic community. And I'm not padding that at all. Like, honestly, I've ever been a part of, and my wife would agree. There was just this transparency, this realness, this, it was so new and so beautiful. And we started to understand, being at the leaders retreat, this is where it started, and this is what has inculcated this into this church community, this Celebrate Recovery community. And so that's what we're gonna celebrate and learn about today. We're gonna have video testimonies, we're gonna hear stories of its beginning times and all about what it is. And I think it's gonna be so encouraging for you, whether it's your first Sunday or your 1000th Sunday. It's gonna be great. So let me introduce my friends up here. These are my fellow pastors, Johanna and Brian. So Johanna Kelly is pastor of Celebrate Recovery. So everything you hear today, she's the glue that holds it all together.
Yes,
Is that a good summary of your job description? Yes.
Yes.
Welcome, Johanna.
Thank you.
And then Brian Balger, and you're gonna learn, is actually the founding pastor of Lakeside's Celebrate Recovery, as well as you currently have a huge role still in Celebrate Recovery's community, but your role is actually family care, pastor of family care. And that basically means you are everywhere. You're in the hospital, you're in people's homes, you're at the courthouse, you're with people in some of their hardest and darkest times of life. And so as you get to know Johanna and Brian, you're gonna see why we love them so much here at Lakeside and hear a little bit more about Celebrate Recovery. So I thought we'd start by going in the Wayback Machine, 20 years, to the beginning of Celebrate Recovery. Can you take us there, Brian?
Sure. Well, wow, I've been on staff for 22 years and came in as what's called a community care director. And back then I had dark brown hair and I was 160 pounds. So now I have gray hair, and we'll leave the other part. So things have changed, but here we are. And about 21 years ago, about a year after being on staff, I realized that my office felt like this revolving door of issues. And that I would listen to people's stories, and all I really had to give at that point was like, why don't you just read your Bible and pray more and come back in another couple weeks or a month and we'll talk. And don't get me wrong, reading our Bibles and praying is a great thing, but something was drastically missing. People would come back and they were worse. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? What are we not doing? And it just felt like something was drastically missing. So I went in and talked to my boss, and he said, shut the door, because I feel the same. We talked for a while about church life and about kind of the model that we were using, if there was even one. And he said, well, it's your job, go find something. So I was like, okay.
That's my new leadership mantra. It's your job, go find something.
Just go do it. And so I looked around a little bit and didn't really resonate with anything. And then I got this email from a friend of mine. He said, have you heard of this Celebrate Recovery? And I had never heard of it. And I'm looking at on my screen, and I'm looking, I go, ooh, we don't talk about stuff like that in church. So I kind of left it, came back a couple hours later, went to put my computer on, boom, there it is again. And that literally went on all day long. And every time I went back to my computer, I said, okay, so let's look at this. So I looked at it. Long story short, 3 weeks later, my boss and I were sitting in Saddleback Church auditorium like this with 2,000 other people who were either already running a Celebrate Recovery or who were looking at checking out this model for their church. And so we sit there, we got 3 days of training, and I went down there to buy the leaders kit and to go to all these workshops to find out how to bring back a program for those people. And by the end of day one, after lots of tears and hearing these incredible stories of healing and life change, I had to come to the realization that I'm one of those people. And I didn't really know what to do with that, other than I'm sitting with my boss and I'm telling him, I'm not your guy. I'm not the guy, because we realized, okay, this is the program we need to bring back to Lakeside. But I'm not the guy. I had lots of counseling prior to that, but once I became a pastor, I was like, okay, I have to put that aside because pastors can't have issues. And so we'll just bottle that and move that aside. But at the conference, it was like Jesus was just saying, Brian, I'm going to move you past behavior modification into healing and restoration.
Wow.
I'm going to take you on a journey. I was like, I didn't come down here for me.
For those people.
I came down here for those people. And so I kind of disqualified myself on day one as being the guy to start Celebrate Recovery. But by day 3, the pastor who started Celebrate Recovery, John Baker, got up and said, maybe some of you feel more broken today than when you came through those doors 3 days ago. And he said, and that's where you need to be. And I'm like, what? And evidently I wasn't the only one, because there were a lot of groan in the room. And I was like, what the heck? And he said, if you came down here to pick up a leader's kit and go to all these workshops so that you can go home and start your program for those people, your program will fail in the next year. He said, but if you're feeling broken and you feel like something's going on in your soul right now and that God's speaking to you, go and start your program. And he said, it's in the Bible, it says, it's in our weakness where God's strength is made known. His power is made perfect in weakness. Go start your program. I was like, oh, gee. I was out of the game on day 1 and back in the game on day 3. So we came back and jumped into counseling right away, back in, and then pulled a team together of people who had either had 12-step experience or who had was in active therapy, and recognized them, just pulled them together and said, hey, we're thinking about starting this program. Do you want to join us? So a group of 6 of us jumped in, and 10 months later opened the doors to Celebrate Recovery.
Wow.
That's
Love
the
that.
history.
So that's how we got Celebrate Recovery. What is Celebrate Recovery? Johanna, give us a little kind of synopsis. How would you describe it in an elevator pitch?
Yeah, elevator pitch. Here we go. So Celebrate Recovery, first off, I would say, is just a community. It's a community, and we base all of our kind of curriculum and whatnot off of the 12 steps of AA, if you're familiar with AA, and the Beatitudes that are found in the Bible in the book of Matthew. And it is for anyone who is seeking healing and restoration from what we call at Celebrate Recovery, life's hurts, hang-ups, and habits.
Now when I hear that and I hear 12-step programs, usually I don't put those together, right? I hear 12-step, I think AA. Walk me through hurts, hang-ups, and habits.
Yeah, because it's so much more than just our behaviors. So there's a slide here you'll see up on the screen. So when we talk about hurt at Celebrate Recovery, we're talking about trauma and pain. And so trauma can be a bit of a loaded word, but I like to think of it as really just a wound. And often these wounds happen in childhood. And so this could be any circumstance or experience that you may have had where you felt powerless. You felt like you didn't have control. So some examples might be growing up in a home where there was divorce or separation, where you had a parent or a sibling who maybe struggled with a mental health issue or an addiction, a complicated health circumstance or a death, anger, rage, or something I heard a number of months ago from a speaker who came to CR was this idea too that trauma is also needs that we had as a child that went unmet. So I thought like emotional needs, like I'm needing security or validation or care from a parent or from a figure that's kind of a parent figure that I don't receive.
Okay, and that's really helpful. And it was helpful for me years ago when I started interacting and understanding, because many of us hear trauma, we think Law and Order, on TV, kind of, and those extreme stories, which are trauma.
Yes.
But it's so much more than that. When you say like anywhere where you felt powerless, anywhere there was a wound in childhood, so much of that's kind of the bottom line: hurt, trauma, pain. That's how you describe that one. Okay,
Yeah.
Walk me through the rest.
Yeah, so from our hurt at CR, we would say that we then develop hang-ups. So hang-ups are belief systems that we develop about ourselves, about others, or about God. So these can be things like I'm alone, I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I can't trust people, God's mad at me, or God's disappointed in me, or God's punishing me. So things that we think about ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
That flows out of the hurt.
That flows out of our hurt, and
Okay.
then out of our hurt, then come our hang-ups, and then it's our habits. So habits are behaviors. So these are I like to call them habitual attachments. So things that we attach ourselves to in order to relieve pain, relieve that deeper pain or discomfort, and to really try and find comfort and find security and find safety. So we do these things in order to get what we never had.
So it could be to escape the pain, to soothe the pain,
Yeah.
to comfort the pain. That's where the habits play in.
Yeah.
Okay, and because I'm visual, I almost see like an iceberg. Would that be a fair metaphor to say like the habit is the presenting thing? Someone's like, hey, you have a drinking problem, you have a spending problem, but you're saying, well, actually, that's just the part where we're seeking comfort. There's so much more below.
Yeah, that's like the symptom.
The symptom.
The symptom of something
That's
deeper.
it. I remember I was actually at a CR a few months back, and they were speaking specifically on trauma, and I remember the speaker just saying like, hey, whatever the habit is that you grabbed a hold of, whether it's drinking, codependency, love, whatever it is, they said, you were surviving. There was just such a gracious, it wasn't guilt, it wasn't how dare you should be ashamed of yourself. It was, you were surviving, and you were just grabbing onto something because needs weren't met at a certain time, or the pain. Yeah.
Trauma response. Yeah.
Yeah, fair. So with that said, kind of give me a list of what are the different, we think alcohol, drugs, but list off for me all the different habits that you see. Not all, there's so many, we don't have all day, but give me a list of many of the common things that people end up, the presenting habit or behavior.
Sure. Well, and there is quite a list, and we all have different trauma responses or responses to pain and wounding. So let's say like eating disorders or food issues, pornography, sexual addiction, sex and love addiction, anger, rage, gambling, even like codependency. If you find yourself to be a fixer or a rescuer or a controller or those kind of behaviors in relationships, an enabler. Drugs and alcohol, which we talked about, and even just workaholism, just avoidant behavior, and scrolling through social media, like even just technology in that context. And so those are some behaviors there.
And I'm struck by the fact that some of those things, we'd all be like, oh yeah, probably not good for anyone to have those in their life. But many of those are morally neutral. Right? They're just but they're things that we use to escape or find comfort. So when people come for those presenting things, someone kind of comes to the place where they realize, I realize I'm just scrolling this because I'm not able to go and deal with the things going on in my marriage, or I'm spending this, right? Like they come to that realization. Often they show up because of that habit or behavior. But then there's so much more below the iceberg. So I know you can't share people's stories. So I'm going to ask you your own stories in a sense. How did this play out for you? You maybe came to CR with the presenting issue, and then you got below the waterline, so to speak. You want to walk us through that, Johanna, for yourself at least?
Yeah. Well, last summer I shared my entire story up here. So you're always welcome to go and listen to that. But I came to Celebrate Recovery when I was 20 years old, and I was using substances to cope, and I would say I had love addiction. So relationships, I had to be in a relationship with someone. I didn't know how to be alone, and I didn't know how to be with myself. let's just say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so underneath that is a lot of things, but yeah, really, I think over time and being a part of the community of CR, a safe place where I could really begin to unpack what I didn't even know was there, and to do that with other people who were also on that journey, I began to discover how deep my shame was. I basically hated myself. I have a lot of, you can listen to my story, but a lot of trauma and pain in my own life, and so, yeah.
And that's, you started unpacking all that.
I started unpacking and still doing so.
Still
Yeah, it's not over yet.
Yeah. And how about for you, Brian?
Well, for me, well, at Celebrate Recovery, we introduce ourselves, and it's not a requirement, but we introduce ourselves, and I'll say, so I need your help here in terms of those who are familiar with Celebrate Recovery and to respond, how we respond. So I'll say, hi, my name is Brian. I'm a follower of Jesus, so we put our identity in our relationship with God. I'm a follower of Jesus, and I'm at Celebrate Recovery working on issues of sexual abuse, sexual addiction, adult child of an alcoholic, and working through codependency specific to people-pleasing and approval addiction, and working on grief issues.
Hi, Brian.
Oh, there you go. Very good. Wow, there's a lot more of you here than we realized. There you go. This is awesome. Yeah, so that's an introduction, and boy, that's a shame buster, because I really struggled deeply with shame from early childhood abuse. And so that's part of my personal story. And what else was I supposed to say, Mark? I just went blank.
It's okay. I was asking you almost like no, that's fair, that's fair. So once you kind of realize, like, hey, like these are the things I'm working through, and then you kind of peel back the layers, so to speak, or backpack.
Yeah, we talk, when I started therapy, it was like adult child of alcoholism. Okay, I had more an enmeshment issue with my mom, always trying to fix her and rescue her and make sure that she was okay. Well, then, as time went on, and then we started Celebrate Recovery, this onion skin, we talk about it like an onion skin, it started to peel back. And there was other stuff, and then there was other stuff, but it was actually okay. Every time, it didn't feel okay right away, don't get me wrong. It was just like, God was just giving me little areas where he knew that were holding me back in my relationship with people, my relationship with him, my perceptions, and how I dealt with life. And just peeling back the onion skin and just realizing, oh, Brian, there was this. What about this? And I was able to go into these journeys and continue to. There are things that come up. And it's a journey. It's just realizing this is not a quick fix. This has been a journey, and it's okay.
And I love the imagery of the onion skin, and you don't, even just because I know you, it's never felt like this ripping off of, now we need to get to this part. It's like, oh, there's another layer. I didn't know I'd ever talk about that, but here we are, and finding more healing than I knew I even needed. Right. Yeah, I love that. The secret sauce of Celebrate Recovery, I've heard you say this so many times, is the community. Talk to me about why community is so important, especially for someone who's maybe like, I'm sure I could read a book and be better, right? Why is community so critical to Celebrate Recovery?
Sure. I remember at a summit many years ago, Celebrate Recovery Summit, we try to go every year for training to Saddleback, and John Townsend, he got up and spoke, and he said, what's happening at Celebrate Recovery is you're providing spaces of community, connection, and belonging. And he said, we all have a deep need to belong. And when we don't belong somewhere, we don't do well. And so he said, keep going home, providing those spaces of community, connection, and belonging. He said, the opposite of that is isolation and disconnection. And that's where we don't do well. That's where we move into behaviors, habits, and things that when we don't feel like we belong, or that we have a community, a safe place to come and unpack that stuff. Yeah.
Can I just say too?
Absolutely.
Like our pain and our trauma happen in relationship generally. So it's like to heal from that, we have to go back to relationship. It happens in relationship, and therefore it's healed in relationship.
Okay. Yeah. I think one of you mentioned, often we think the opposite of addiction is sobriety, right? But it's actually community. Because when we're at the top of the iceberg, usually there's shame, we pull away, we isolate, we get out of community. And so the first thing about CR is you show up to a community.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fairly new. I'm gonna say research in terms of the last, I don't know, I'm gonna throw it at like 8 to 10 years, but the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. is community.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's powerful, because in community, again, safe community, we actually get to process all that, all the pain.
Yeah, you're going so much beyond, hey, this is the bad behavior, knock it off.
Yeah.
It's like, no, everything has a reason.
No,
You're getting
we go through all these years of trying harder and doing better, but it really comes down to God's power and keeping it real. Where do we have a safe place just to keep it real and just invite Jesus into these pain places?
Yeah, we weren't planning on going here, but I'm struck by even the last few weeks we've been talking, and you talked about how you'd send people away to pray and read their Bible, and they were coming back just as messed up, and it's
Sorry if you're one of those.
And then, yes, you said some never came back, right? Yeah, fair. But I'm struck by the fact that, like, well, if you just pray more, you'll get more of God. And God's like, no, actually, I work through people. We talked about that a few weeks ago, right? God's presence through the community, through us, is where we find the presence of God. So that's...
Well, and the whole belonging piece, too. Like, there aren't a lot of places where we can be real, but the opposite. It's like we're trying to fit in. We're trying to be accepted. We're trying to, like... this is what this is like, and this is what I need to be like in order to fit into this place. Whereas belonging it's not about trying to fit into something, it's about being who you are in wherever you are and being accepted as you are in that place.
Exactly.
Which is, it's totally a different thing.
I love that line, we heal together. Okay, so getting real practical here now. So when I think practical. When I think 12-step program, I think television, and I think of, like, that person who reaches that point, they decide to go to the meeting. It's always in a dark church basement with those really uncomfortable wooden chairs and bad coffee, and the new person always has to share their life story on the first night. That's what I picture. Maybe others do as well. So walk us through, is it like that?
No, not exactly. We have good coffee.
We have good coffee.
Yes, and no, we meet every Monday night. Every Monday night, even if it's on a holiday. We met this past Christmas because it was on a Monday. Yeah, because we believe that recovery doesn't stop, and so neither do we. So 7 o'clock Monday nights, and if you show up for your first time, every week we also have a newcomers group. And so that's like, it's a bit of it's like an orientation. So we talk about what Celebrate Recovery is, what it's not, answer questions you have. You don't even have to talk. Like, you could just come to that group and you can sit there, and if Brian's with me and we're in there, we'll just talk and you can listen like this. We try to kind of limit as many barriers as we can. So
we talk about it being, it's your journey. We're here to provide the space, the tools in order how to get well, but it's your journey. You're in the driver's seat. You're not forced to share. You just even on the first night coming to an actual support group setting, it's really just goes around the circle. You can say pass. You just go and observe, and just when you feel comfortable, you share. It's not a requirement. Obviously, the sooner we share, the more benefit it is to us. But again, there's no agenda, and it's your journey.
Yeah, and Celebrate Recovery has no registration or no cost. It's really like a Sunday morning. You just show up. Come with a friend if you like, if that's more comfortable for you. And we have 3 parts to our evening, so I'll just kind of walk through those quick. So our first hour from 7 to 8, we have what we call large group, which is really similar to this. So we have a band, an amazing band, awesome band who play, and we have teachings or a testimony each week. In our large group time, it's really all about hope. So giving hope to people as they're coming. And then the second hour from 8 to 9 are our small groups. In our small group time, it's that place where you can take back those layers of the onion and begin to look at what's going on for you. And those groups are gender specific and they're issue specific. And that time, it's all about safety. It's all about creating a safe place for you to come and unpack. And it's totally confidential. Celebrate Recovery is a confidential and an anonymous program. So basically what that means is that who you see at Celebrate Recovery and what you say at Celebrate Recovery, it stays at Celebrate Recovery. And that's just a huge part of keeping our community a safe place for anyone. So those two parts, and then the last hour from 9 to 10, we have a cafe. So we have that good coffee I mentioned, and there's some snacks, and it's really just a time of community, connection, and belonging, just to kind of meet on a, not as on such a deep level, but just be able to kind of hang out and be social and interact with each other.
Yeah, and then just because I love to take all the mystery away. So it actually happens in the room just next door to us here called the chapel.
Yeah.
It looks much like this, just a little bit smaller. So there's rows, there's a back row. So if you're coming for the first time, sneak in the back row, sneak out, just like some of you do every Sunday, which is great. We love that. And that's maybe where you're at on your healing journey. It's just, I just need to come, watch, and leave, and just observe for a while.
Yeah, totally. And there are people who do come for large group.
Yeah.
For a few weeks, and they don't go to small group.
Yeah.
Or they come to large group and then they'll go to the newcomers group, and then maybe they just come for large group. Like, so we want people to get to that place of going to a small group, because that's where the healing and the restoration happens. But if you want to just come and take part in the large group, just to be like, who are these people? Because we're kind of weird, to be totally honest.
Case in
I'm
point.
weird. I'm weird. I'll use I statements. Yeah.
All right. So now pull back to 30,000 feet. 20, no, that's good. That's good. 20 years. Talk to me about some of the impact. You've been here all 20 years, Brian. What are some of the areas you've just seen worth
First of all, we're
celebrating?
not weird.
We all have our own brand of weird.
True.
There you
Okay,
go.
well, maybe, yeah, okay. Well, in the first 10 years, we actually were able, as a church, as a venue, we were able to host what were called one-day trainings for all across Ontario. So, we had 500 or 600 people here for training, again, how to start a Celebrate Recovery, or if you're already running, advanced leadership training. And so those are really cool years as well, because there was about 3,000 people over that time that came through to figure out what their church wanted to do, similar to us when we went back 20 years ago to California. And so, and then also, like, it's really cool just running into people I'm kind of out in the community a lot, and just love running into people and who are just saying, wow, those are really significant. That was a really significant time in my life to be able to find that safe place, to find some healing and to move on, and to include therapy. We really encourage people to include a therapeutic process as well, if you're comfortable, if you finances, whatever. It's just really helpful. And so just running into people say, well, I'm in therapy now too, but I'm thinking about coming back to Celebrate Recovery because I have some other stuff I realize I can probably get some time there and heal from. And even just as a ministry leader, Johanna's a ministry leader now and has been for about 3 years. And my time as a ministry leader in the 17 years, I was able to review the testimonies, because we have a testimony time at Celebrate Recovery every second week. And so about 375 testimonies came across my desk to review and to edit. We always do this edit thing, so helping people write their testimonies. I thought, wow, that's a lot of stories.
That's because, I mean, participants-wise, it's a couple thousand, but that 375 represents people who are willing to not just be like, I got some issues. It's like they were sharing for often 10, 15, 20 minutes some of the deepest parts of that onion to show other people, hey, you can find healing too.
And we go around to other Celebrate Recoveries, and within an hour, we book into other Celebrate Recoveries to share our testimonies. Again, it just gives people permission. You start talking about your stuff, and it gives permission. Okay, I can go there now. That person just gave me permission by sharing it.
It's okay to not be okay.
Exactly. It's okay to not be okay.
Okay. And then, Johanna, on a weekly basis, like, what's the impact even now? So 20 years later, what are we looking at?
Yeah. So we typically have 50 to 60 people come out every week.
Okay.
We're currently running 6 small groups, so 3 women's groups and 3 men's groups. We're hoping to launch a couple more of those in the fall. And I'm like, what was my other thing? How could I have forgot this? We have the most incredible leadership team, I have to say. And there's about 20 of us, and I just love them. They're amazing, and I couldn't do this without them. So I'm just so thankful, for them. And they're volunteers who have their lives have been changed through the program, and they want to give back. So
and if you come to CR, you'll meet them as I met them 6 years ago, and you'll love them instantly. Okay, now there's even impact beyond our walls. I mean, you talked about thousands here for training, and hundreds for the testimonies and all that. But beyond here, there's some legacy elements. So talk to me about CPR first, and that's not what you think.
It's not what you think it is. Celebrate Pastors in Recovery. Wow. So about 10 years ago, I went to a workshop in California called Celebrate Pastor. And I thought, well, that's new. I'm going to go attend that. And I came out of there deeply impacted in realizing it's really hard for pastors, Christian leaders, to find a safe place to go and heal. There's so much isolation. There's so much fear. And so we started, another friend and I in Guelph here, we started one, and we ran about 6 of them over a period of 6 years. And hope to get back into that again too, actually. And we had an all-day training yesterday in Kitchener for about 300 leaders across Ontario. And there was a Celebrate Pastors Recovery booth there, and a few of us worked the booth. And there's people who are interested and want to start that again. So it was really critical, because it's really helpful for pastors to find healing and restoration for own personal wounding. Even so, we'll stop projecting our brokenness over congregations, because that happens.
It does.
It does. So pastors got issues. Go figure.
Yeah. And I mean, that they came from all over the region, like Hamilton, Mississauga, because it was so scary to even say as a pastor in your own city, I'm not doing well, or I got stuff to work through, that you ended up, coaching, journeying alongside so many pastors all across.
And we still meet today more just for coffee and lunch and things like that. We don't go through curriculum, because we have a kind of a core of, we just know how to share with each other now in a way that is authentic and feels it's part of the healing journey.
Yeah. So that's CPR. And then Johanna, there's another CR birthed by this CR.
There was,
Tell us about our child.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So if you don't already know, in the fall of 2022, there was a small team here from CR Lakeside who initiated Celebrate Recovery downtown Guelph. And so they are still running. That's on Wednesday nights at 7 at Hope House downtown. And one of the big parts of launching that, wanting to kind of get that initiative happening, was wanting it to be a collaborative model with different churches coming together to make that happen. And so right at the beginning, the Guelph Bible Chapel was a really big part of just kind of making that happen, and in conversation and kind of exploring it. And so now the Guelph Bible Chapel has taken it, they're leading it, and they have a group of other churches in the city that are just partnering with them to continue having it happen. And yeah, it's you can't go wrong having another place in the city of Guelph where people can find healing and restoration with Jesus.
And I love that. You've even shared with me, at times there's relational tension that actually people need healing and help from, but that means they can't be in the same building, maybe because it's a marital issue or whatever it is. To have different places to go is huge as well.
Yeah, that's been, it's already been a huge thing. For that, and also just like the accessibility of having, like there are people who can't get out here just because of our location, so right in the heart of the city, and it's a different night of the week, so. Yeah,
and we actually have Lakesiders and some who are here today who actually go down every week and serve there and are helping them get that going. So thank you to those who do that. So that's where we've been, what's going on now, and now we want to kind of look to the future. We're going to do something that we love to do here at Lakeside, which is to pray for the CR team. And so the leaders have already been told about this. This isn't a surprise. We like to prepare people, but those that are willing and able, confidentiality, there are some that aren't coming up, but the leaders that are available are going to meet you over here, and in a moment, Robin's just going to pray over you and thank God for the last 20 years and look forward to the next 20. So leaders, come on up, make your way. Don't be shy. Just come on up to this side of the stage here, and we'll pray with you in a minute. But I thought we'd do something kind of neat while they're making their way up. And again, confidentiality, you always have the option not to participate in this. But if you're comfortable, if CR has been a part of your story, a part of your healing, or a part of someone you know and love's story of healing. And that way, in a sense, if CR has impacted you directly or indirectly, in a moment, I'm going to invite you to stand just to kind of see the impact CR has had. So again, if you or someone you know and love has been impacted by Celebrate Recovery, why don't you just stand for a moment just so we can see the impact of that on your life. Isn't that amazing? There it is, all the way up, yes. That's great. And you can grab a seat. And Robin is going to pray for our leaders.
Friends, our team. And you know what? We're all part of this, yes. Thank you. I can't help but think, like Mark, Steve and I had the privilege of being on one of their retreats, and we came away thinking, oh my goodness, this is the church. This is what Jesus had in mind, this idea of belonging and community and restoration. And so we all get to be a part of that. So I just want to thank all of you who support the ministry here and support CR. This is what it's all about. And so I just want to invite you, if you're able, maybe to stand. We have the privilege as a community of faith to be Jesus, to anoint and bless. And so I just invite you to join me as I pray over them. We are going to be praying and anointing them for another at least 20 years. And so if you feel comfortable, just extending your hand out, and we will together bless this team. And so, Redeemer God, our Creator, our Restorer, thank you for this celebration today. A celebration of lives and families, generations really, rescued and transformed over the past 20 years. Hearts, minds, bodies set right. Hurts, injustices, and abuses redeemed. Redeemed. Thank you for this team committed to partnering with you in nothing less than recreation. Committed to walking with people in their darkest moments. Committed to being you, Jesus, to those who are grieving lost hopes, lost dreams, lost relationships. Together as their community of faith here, we anoint them afresh. We speak your name over them, Jesus. We call upon your Spirit to fill and empower them to continue in this vital ministry of bringing beauty from ashes, joy out of mourning, celebration from despair. We pray this all in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen. Bless you.
Well, thanks so much, friends, for joining us and celebrating, looking back and looking ahead and the incredible impact of Celebrate Recovery. If it's your first time, let me just give you a few closing announcements. One is our prayer teams are making their way up to the crosses. And if you need prayer for anything, you're like, I'm not even sure if God exists. I just know I got some stuff and, I'm open to anything. Go meet our prayer ministers. They would just love to pray with you. And as well, Brian and Johanna, and you'll see some of the CR team with their shirts. Any one of them would be happy to chat with you out in the atrium, set up a coffee, connect, answer any questions. And of course, Celebrate Recovery is here tomorrow night, 7 p.m., right there in the chapel, and they'd love for you to join them. Last thing, on your way out, the cafe, which is all the way at the end of the hall on your left, is open today with the tea room. Tea room happens once a month here on the weekends, and then every Tuesday and Wednesday throughout the week, and all proceeds actually go to support the church. And if you're looking just to sit down for some tea or coffee or to have a full meal, you will not be disappointed, and you can do it, as Robin always says, guilt-free, because you're supporting Lakeside as you do it. So they have some reservations open as always, so feel free to grab someone or others and have a great meal there as well. Have a fantastic week, friends, and thanks for sharing with us today.